Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cheat Code Jiu-Jitsu. Jeff here again. We are working today on lockdown avoidance. Probably most of you out there have at least one person that you train with that is really annoying with their lockdown. I don't think we have a guy like that at our gym. Nobody really uses lockdown at all. But definitely lockdown is not a fun place to be. If you're in there with somebody who really knows how to use it, it's a position that can be exploited and bad things can happen to it. So the first idea is you never want to get there in the first place. So we're going to talk about some ways of avoiding lockdown, things that he needs to look for in order to be able to make that work. And then we'll talk about how to get out of lockdown in some upcoming videos. So lockdown avoidance, stay tuned. So if you go back to the beginning of my lockdown series, card up at the top, if you've not seen it yet, which really you should watch that all the way through before you watch this. I talked about how this foot, the outside foot, when you're talking about lockdown, is the key to making it work. Right now, you can see behind me, Chris has got that outside foot wrapped around my leg. That's going to keep me from doing a lot of things as the guy on top to get out of lockdown. Going back to our concepts video, which is our last one, I mentioned that one of the things that I want to do is I want to be fighting on my way in, grip fighting, avoiding Chris being able to do things that are going to set him up for advantageous positions. This right here is the number one thing that I want to be fighting against if I want to keep him from being able to put me in lockdown. And the reason is, what I'm trying to do is I want to be, with this leg, my trap leg, I want to be chair sitting. And if I can chair sit in half guard, then there is no lockdown for him. That option is gone. He may still have me in half guard, but there's no lockdown at all. So what I mean by chair sitting, the position that I ultimately want to get to, and this again assuming is that I'm just in half guard and I can't get out immediately, is I want this leg elevated a little bit off the mat. I want to take this foot, my trapped foot, and swivel on my knee underneath, and then I'm going to sit on Chris's leg. We talked about this in the lockdown entries video, but as long as this foot, this trapped foot, is somewhere back here, there's always some sort of an option for Chris to step his outside leg over, and as soon as he gets it in place like that, he can, no matter how much I've got it pulled in, he can always pull it back out, and then he just starts fishing for my toes with this foot, and I'm back in lockdown. So I want to, as quickly as possible, if I see that we're coming into lockdown, I'm setting up shop here, I'm trying to get my grips established, but Chris is sliding his way towards me. It looks like he's going to be getting into half guard. If I can't get out of half guard, I want to, as fast as possible, lift this up, clear space underneath of that knee, and then chair sit underneath of it, and then sit. Once I get a good quality chair sit in place, first of all, this sucks. This is terrible for the guy on bottom, because I've basically got the hard knob on the side of my ankle digging into the soft tissue that he's got here on the side of his leg, which is in and of itself uncomfortable. Plus I'm sitting my hips down on top of his knee, which just adds to the misery. So this is just thoroughly unenjoyable. And there's no chance of him getting locked out at this point because my foot is buried underneath of his knee. There's nothing for him to grab, there's nothing for him to pull out. My personal preference when I'm in top half guard is if I can get to this chair sit position to avoid the lockdown, I want to double chair sit. So I have my back leg underneath of his leg. I always want it above the knee, not below the knee, because if you remember from the lockdown entries video, I commented that if you're down here below the knee, Chris always has the option of putting that knee on the ground and then pushing it back out to flare my leg out, which then causes my leg to go back into an optimal position for him to grab the lockdown. So I want to chair sit above the knee, sit on it, and then I like to double chair sit so that now I'm using my free leg as a block on this leg to keep him from hip escaping and then sliding that through. This takes some flexibility. I've met a lot of guys that can't do this. That's fine if you can't do this. But this is kind of an optimal half guard position for me. I want to try to get my underhook over here. I try to set up shop down here. I always try to be a little bit low, starting out down by the hips. But this sort of chair sitting position right here, especially double chair sitting, is an excellent place to pass from, and he's got very few options for anything from here. So when I'm on my way in, coming in, looking to lift and chair sit immediately, and then this is the position that I want to end up with, whether it's here with this leg up, which I'm okay with because I've actually got pressure on his hips keeping him away from me, and the chair sit prevents him from being able to get out of the leg locks. Here, double chair sitting to put extra pressure on, or I can just drop down really low here and keep the arm blocked out. I've got my double underhooks in place. That all works, and it works very well to prevent him from getting locked down. That's option number one. Option number two is when I feel like I'm not going to be able to chair sit because Chris is doing too good of a job of getting in deep. So Chris is pulling me into half guard, and you can see that he's doing a good job. I'm trying to set up here, but he's already got his outside leg over across, which means chair sitting is largely not going to happen at this point. If I leave my foot here and I leave my leg in this position, there is a good chance that where we're going to end up in is probably some kind of lockdown. I've still got blocks that I can put in place to try to flare that leg out to maybe keep him from getting really good quality lockdown, but the chair sit is largely gone. What I like to do at this point is I want to take this leg away from him, and I have to do it quickly, because if I don't do it quickly, he's going to be able to fish with his bottom leg and constantly be finding my toes to pull me back into lockdown. So we're pulling into half guard, and I feel like I've lost the chair sit battle. What I want to do is, as Chris starts to extend my leg out so it starts to become straight, I'm actually going to go with that momentum, and rather than trying to turn my leg back this way and chair sit, I'm going to keep turning it out so that I can bring it up by his butt. So the way it's going to look is we're here, Chris starts pushing that out, and I just go with the flow and then just continue kicking it out. Now, what Chris would probably be doing in this situation is he's still trying to bring me into lockdown. That's what he wants. So as this foot starts coming out, I'm going to plant it, and then I'm immediately going to start walking it like this across the mat. And I got to do this fast to avoid the lockdown. But ideally, I want to get my foot up by his butt. Anywhere out here, if you've got a guy with any kind of leg dexterity, they're going to do exactly what Chris just did, and they're going to hook their toes underneath your ankle, and right back in lockdown. Now I got to deal with this shit. Well, I don't want to deal with that shit. I just want to avoid the lockdown altogether. So as he starts pulling me in, I turn, I go with his momentum, and then I immediately start walking the foot up, and I'm going to get it up to his butt. He's still got me in half guard, but he doesn't have me in lockdown, and he can't get me in lockdown because my foot is too close. There's just nothing for him to fish out. So those are my two favorite ways of quickly avoiding lockdown while he's pulling me into half guard. Either come in, elevate, chair sit, sit on the leg, and then set up camp here. Or if I've lost the chair sitting battle and he went ahead and got there, start turning, and then get the leg, get the foot, I should say, up to his butt as quickly as I possibly can to avoid him being able to turn that into lockdown. That's not always going to work. Sometimes you get people who have hyper flexible, hyper dexterous legs. They're just really good at lockdown. I don't know anybody like that. And they're going to really annoy you with being able to fish that foot out over and over again and pull you back into lockdown. So that's going to be a bad situation, but it's okay, because it doesn't matter how good they are, there's a counter to everything, and there's definitely counters to lockdown. So come back in our next video, we're going to start walking through some lockdown escapes, how to pick your way out of lockdown and get to a better half guard position, or just completely pass the lockdown entirely and get yourself up into side control. So come back next time, we'll start walking our way through that. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button. Helps us out a lot, helps the YouTube algorithm gods to show our videos to more people. And also make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You'll get a notification every time we upload a new video. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.